Donadio, former U.S. Secret Service agent at the White House for Bush and Obama administrations. And you're a Trump supporter, Barry.
I am. Thanks for having me on.
Utter pleasure. Just give us your reasons. Is he the peacemaker? Why is he the peacemaker?
Well, he's the peacemaker because look at his first administration. He met with the North Korean leader on the border. Very dangerous thing, by the way, for a world leader to do from a security aspect.
Do you think that really shoots at the U.S. president? Do you think it's dangerous?
Who knows? Okay. You're on the border of a demilitarized zone, so who knows?
Okay.
And from a former member of the Secret Service, anything's possible. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So that's the way we think.
Sure.
So look, he did that. He should have got the Nobel Peace Prize simply just for that, if you ask me. Now, going into his second term, his priority is peace. There's no doubt about it. And I know everybody's angry about blowing up Iranian nuclear facilities, but let's all be honest with ourselves. He's doing the dirty work that everybody wanted to get done. You're telling me people in Scotland, the UK, all of the NATO allies, they didn't want that to happen, or did they want the Ayatollah to be armed with a nuclear weapon? So Trump's doing the dirty work that nobody wants to talk about, and he's getting the job done. He saved probably 1 million lives because the minute that the Ayatollah had a nuclear weapon, he had said he's going to wipe Israel off the map. So I look at that as a life-changing action or life-saving action, not necessarily a war. So they denied them the ability to kill other people. And as far as Venezuela goes, and I understand, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle there, certainly have the opinion that, somehow this was an illegal action. This was an apprehension of a drug lord, an alleged drug lord, if you will. He hasn't been found guilty in a court of law yet, but listen, the Biden administration agreed with this assessment. He has had a bounty on his head higher than Osama bin Laden. So for those who don't understand the severity of the situation, it is alleged that basically he is using the government of a country to send drugs to another country to kill people.
Barry, I appreciate you talking to me. It's really early where you are in the morning, so thank you so much for doing this. And you think you should have won the Nobel Peace Prize. You think you should be on a coin. Let me bring Professor Phillips O'Brien back in. He's a prof of strategic studies, St Andrews University. Professor Phillips, just come back on that.
Well, there was no war between North and South Korea that was ended. The status is exactly there. There was no war at the time that Trump went. So the idea that he would get, and by the way, North Korea still has nuclear weapons, which means the person's great statement that, he kept Iran from having nuclear weapons, he did the exact opposite when it came to North Korea. He basically allowed North Korea to have nuclear weapons, and they are nuclear armed now. So the comparison makes no sense to say that he deserves the Nobel Prize for one and not the other. By the way, he didn't end the Iranian nuclear program. He might have delayed it by a few months, maybe a year. But it is not over. The Iranians are still making it, and they're still being very quiet about it, and he might want to bomb again. So this whole construct is that we have basically a propaganda arm of the U.S. government now that is desperately trying to make Trump's vision of the world the one people believe, even though it's not true. The 8 wars solved, India, Pakistan solved. None of that is true. But because the President of the United States desperately wants people to believe it, acolytes are going on shows like this around the world repeating nonsense.
Barry, are you just part of a propaganda effort? Do you believe?
What I believe is your other gentleman there is highly wrong. North Korea and South Korea are still at war, technically.
Okay, that's right. They're still at war. They are still at war.
You just said they weren't, so you're wrong. Highly wrong.
No, well,
so what part are you right at?
He didn't change the status. He did not change the status of North and South Korea. So therefore, he did not bring peace.
Right. So what did he try like no other?
No, everything trying to solve. Terry Truman tried to solve it. Dwight Eisenhower tried to solve it. And they didn't.
Certainly.
So the idea that Trump
but I didn't see you on a DMZ trying. I saw him doing it. Okay, so it's very easy to say and mock somebody for trying to end a war that's been going on since 1953 when you're not there. You weren't there. He was there.
Yeah, South Korea's South Korea's president said he would agree to a deal between Donald Trump and Kim Kim Jong-un, in which North Korea agreed to freeze production of its nuclear weapons rather than get rid of them.
Yeah, but they still have their nuclear program. North Korea still has its nuclear program.
Let me bring in John in Glasgow. Hang on, let me bring in John in Glasgow. We've got calls coming in. 08085 92 95 00. John, hello.
Hello, morning.
You're a Trump
well, the
supporter.
gentleman in the Secret Service, retired chap, has just basically, in some respects, hit it on the head, which is that Trump's doing the dirty work. He may be a peacemaker, he may not be a peacemaker, but he's attempting to be. And nobody likes the person who does the dirty work. People may secretly have an admiration for the dirty work that's been done.
What's the dirty work he's doing, John?
They're not going to say they like the person, because obviously he may be not a nice person. It's not the values that we wish. But unfortunately, this week we've heard an awful lot of truths and home truths in Europe, which we don't like to hear. Nobody likes the messenger. The messenger's a nasty person. How dare somebody say things like that?
John, let me bring in Mick. So we're getting calls. 08085 92 95 00. Mick, Donald Trump, peacemaker. Yes, no.
Definitely not.
What is he then?
Well, he's more of a con man than a businessman than a peacemaker.
Con man.
Well, as one of the earlier speakers pointed out, he's constantly referring to all these wars that he's prevented or halted, and it's pure fiction.
Maybe we should just nail this on the head. So Barry, you're former U.S. Secret Service agent at the White House for Bush and Obama. You're pro-Trump. Could you just, for everyone's help, because I think we all hear this, which 8 wars has he ended?
Too many to list, really.
Well, just give me 8.
Let's focus on Gaza alone. Let's focus on Gaza alone. Is it fair to say that
give me 8.
he had something? Well, let me start with 1. Is it fair that he solved that? Yes or no?
Phillips O'Brien, did he solve Gaza?
Get Hamas out of power, and Hamas is not out of power. Trump said he would have ended Gaza. Is Hamas in power? Does Hamas still exist in Gaza?
I think in a closet somewhere right now. Do they exist any way, shape, or form to where they did a year ago? The answer is absolutely not.
That's not the criterion.
Can I open this up, fellas? You know, we love the way we go down rabbit holes. Barry, help me. The 8 wars he's solved. Which of the 8 wars?
So Gaza, Congo. I know India now suddenly wants to deny his involvement, but it's funny that right after that he got involved, the shots stopped firing. That was a hot war. Okay, so I don't know what kind of propaganda is going out there now that he did not do anything. Okay.
Well, Phillips O'Brien, I've got the list. The list is Israel and Hamas, Israel and Iran, Pakistan and India, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, Thailand and Cambodia, Armenia and Azerbaijan, Egypt and Ethiopia, and Serbia and Kosovo. Professor Phillips O'Brien, this is your kind of study limit, remit rather, not limit, remit. Did he solve those 8 wars?
He didn't solve any of them.
Right.
I mean, in Armenia, Azerbaijan, the Azerbaijanis conquered Nagorno-Karabakh. That all he did was, recognize the fact that the Azerbaijanis had won that war. Kosovo, Serbia was from his first term, and he actually had nothing to do with it. By the way, Congo-Rwanda has been going on for decades and is still going on. That war is not over. Cambodia and Thailand, they're still exchanging fire across the border. That has not stopped. So basically what he does is there's some kind of conflict. He calls the leader, says, aha, I've solved it. And then propagandists in the United States who back him, and by the way, outside of the United States, say, huzzah, huzzah, he's brought peace. But he's not brought peace, and they're ignoring the fact that actually he's used force in the Caribbean to blow up fishing boats, which is probably a war crime, and act in illegal ways. So this idea that he's brought peace to 8 wars is just nonsense.
Barry, we've had a few people backing your point of view, so I hope you don't feel hijacked here today, but we've had obviously John in Glasgow and a few others.
I'm used to it.
No, it's okay, but it's 4 o'clock in the morning where you are. Just last word to you before we move on.
Sure.
Why do you think Donald Trump is a peacemaker, and what do you think his legacy is? Just briefly, if you can.
Well, I just think that it is extremely important to him to be known as a peacemaker. I think that's the ultimate thing that he's trying to achieve. there's easier ways to be a warmonger. Well, let's just go invade Cuba right now, for instance. Let's go do something that for sure we're going to end up in a 20-year war. I don't see that. Now, yeah, you may not like what he's doing, and again, he is doing the world's dirty work. You can't tell me that people in Scotland want the Ayatollah armed with a nuke, and if they do, well, then we're all doomed. But no, he took out the nuclear program. They were not going after Iranian civilians or anything like that. And yeah, my opinion, we're going to topple that regime, and the end of the nuclear threat will be over, just like the Hamas, Houthis, and Hezbollah threat will start to alleviate. They'll have no funding whatsoever. So, yeah, I agree.
Thank you for talking to me, Barry Donadio, former U.S. Secret Service agent. We must